Hoot in the Dark presents... Hootaween! The review which you are about to see is an account of the tragedy which befell a group of three. In particular, Louanne Platter and her aunt, Peggy Hill. It was all the more tragic that she was so young and naive. But had she have had any kind of common sense, they would not have expected, nor would they wish to see as much of the mad and macabre as they were about to see that Halloween night. For an idyllic lecture at the Annex that Peggy enrolled Louanne in without really asking her if that's what she wanted to do first, would become a nightmare when she encountered one Trip Larson, and the events of that night would lead to the King of the Hill episode that would be banned for its disturbing and graphic nature, and would be pushed back until Season 7, and would go down in the annals of animation history as King of the Hill, Season 7, Episode 9, Pygmalion. Well, my fellow Hooties, it's time to put a spooky bow in the month of Hoottober, and there's no other way to end Hoottober than with the final Hootaween review I had planned before Dexter's Lab Month, King of the Hill, Season 7, Episode 9, Pygmalion. That's I instead of Y, which would be the play Pygmalion by Irish playwright George Bernard Shaw. Since I talked about Halloween last year, it's only fair that I talked about the other King of the Hill Halloween special. And boy, this one, whew, it's a doozy. But I don't think I need to tell you fellow Hooties that. An episode so dark, it was banned when it's supposed to be in Season 6 around Halloween 2001, but was pushed back until 2003 as an extra episode for Season 7. And it wasn't even on October, but January. Now that's no way to treat such a great Halloween special. But now that it's Halloween, or well it should be if I'm able to get this out by then, I feel I can give this special the respect that it deserves by having it air on the date that it was meant to be watched and enjoyed on. And I'm going to give this review my all and make it as entertaining for you as possible. Now, I won't be able to add as much Hooted trivia as other amazing channels, but I'll give this review the best Hooted treatment I can. With that being said, let's get our trick-or-treat snacks, some pumpkin-flavored whatever you're drinking, and let's get to King of the Hill, Pygmalion, which is also 21 years old. Man, don't I feel old. We begin this terrifying episode at Rattlesnakes as the Hills are having dinner when Peggy sees the supervisor Bitsy giving Louanne a hard time.
I do so know enough not to put a salad-sized fork in the spoon bin.
Well, that fork didn't just walk along and hop in there by herself, did she now?
Now, Peggy has always had her moments where I really like her, and there are moments where I really hate her. But there's something about her that you really can't fault her for, and that's always being there for her fam. Well, for the most part. We're not talking about Goodbye Normal Jeans yet. Wait, Goodbye Normal Jeans is a Thanksgiving episode. Well, seems you fellow Hooties just got a hint for one of my Hootsgiving reviews. But getting back to Pygmalion, she's always there to defend her fam, and seeing her niece getting yelled at by her supervisor for something that she probably didn't even do is one thing you never do in the presence of Paddlin' Peggy, the Boggle Queen, size 16 on her right, size 16.5 on her left, Randy Travis punching, daughter of a retcon rancher, Hill!
Oh yeah!
That being said, there are times where she oversteps her boundaries.
Excuse me, ma'am. Why are you calling my niece a liar?
Louanne knows we have a way of doing things here at Rattlesnakes. She also knows the consequences of not following that way.
You will not use threats with her.
And you will not tell me how to talk to my supervisees.
And you have just lost yourself a waitress. She quits.
Well, now, wait a minute. I wasn't gonna fire her.
Louanne, pick up your clothes and 3 onion loaves. We are going home.
I understand not wanting her niece to get treated poorly, but Bitsy wasn't going to fire Louanne. Even Bitsy was taken back by how Peggy reacted, not to mention how devastated poor Louanne was, and she looked so adorable in her rattlesnake's uniform. Also, I don't know if Peggy can just tell Luann to snag 2 onion loaves on her way out. I'm not from Texas, but I'm pretty sure that's still considered stealing. Back at the Hill House, Peggy enrolls Luann to the Learning Annex, where there's a class on the joy of entrepreneuring, without asking Luann.
It would be really nice if sometimes you could ask me when you make decisions about my life.
You're right. Would you like to go at 7 or at 9?
7.
I'm sorry, that won't work for me.
Something I've noticed while working on this script is that the other speaker, aside from Trip Larson, is Buck Strickland, who, despite being, well, Buck Strickland, would have been a far better person to listen to rather than, well, Trip Larson. But since Peggy knows the kind of person Buck is, I'm not surprised that she chose someone she didn't know. And besides, how could she have known that Trip Larson would be far worse than Buck? Because, let's be honest, you can say what you will about Buck and the things he's done and how he uses Hank and the ladies of his life, especially considering he's a married man. But at the end of the day, he was the man who made Hank the man he is today and introduced him to the clean burning perfection known as propane. And also, he isn't, well, Trip Larson. At the Learning Annex, we're introduced to Trip Larson.
My great-grandfather started Larson Pork Products with little more than 3 pigs and a killing hammer. Today, I'm proud to say, we kill more pigs than, well, pig hepatitis.
Luann seems to be interested in what Trip has to say. Well, she doesn't understand most of what he's saying, her asking Peggy what a food product is. She's more interested in the fact that he was excited about his career in pork products. We also see that he's not really listening to what Luann is saying, just waiting for his moment to talk as he invites her to an interview with Larson Pork Products.
How'd you like to interview for a position with Larson Pork Products?
Well, I did work with pork chops in my last job. But to be honest, sometimes I dropped a couple.
Well, see, that's the beauty of pork. It rinses off clean.
We see an interesting bit of animation with Hank when he enters and leaves the kitchen. I know I'm definitely not the only one that's brought this up, but it's really a nice attention to detail. When Hank walks in, he does a little sidestep around the hanging spider before seeing they're serving ice cream.
Trip Larson has scheduled an interview with Luann.
I get to go to his house.
And as usual, King of the Hill fashion, well, for the most part, Hank is normally the voice of reason, and has a sort of sixth sense with certain situations, if you will. AKA, he knows how men think, and cautions Luann about going to the interview at someone's house rather than the pork processing plant, or a more professional setting. Then again, the processing plant is nearby his house. Anyway, Hank tries to warn Luann about what Trip's true intentions may be, and is surprised that she understands what he's hinting at.
You think he could be interested in something more than an interview?
Oh, you mean sex?
No. Yes.
Now, he was facing away from the spider decoration, so it could be debated that he wasn't focusing on it to duck his head or sidestep, but that could also be because he was too shocked to even duck, just walk out of the room and confirm to Luann what he means. Luann and Peggy arrive at the beautiful Larson estate as Trip is working on a speed bike as he whisks Luann away to a hot air balloon, telling Peggy to read up on his biography, which she doesn't take too kindly. Now, I think she was upset because she probably wanted to learn a thing or two from Trip, but he completely isn't interested in entertaining Peggy as much as Luann, but she might have taken it as an insult that he just brushed her off and told her to sit and read my book I wrote. Which she does while he takes Luann on a hot air balloon interview. But really, he just wanted to get her alone so he can get his pork-processed fingers in her mind and begin the manipulation process. Which, I know it sounds like I'm describing Trip like he's some science fiction parasite alien, but in my hooted opinion, that's how I feel when he went out of his way to put distance between him and Luann and Peggy. he saw that she was a potential roadblock, and instead of just having her to himself and him probably taking around the estate and begin the slow putting a wedge between Louanne and her fam, he would do it literally. Louanne is conflicted about her being too stupid for someone like Trip, and I want this interaction to play before I give my hoot in the dark about how cunning a smooth talker like Trip is.
You are not stupid. You're ignorant.
What? No, you can't tell.
It's a compliment. That just means you haven't had the chance to learn all the wrong things.
You see how he flat out calls her ignorant, but he makes it feel like he's complimenting her, making it seem that he's trying to teach her the right way before going in for a smooch. And this moment with Peggy is hilarious.
What are you doing? That is not a proper way to interview!
And with that smooch begins the slow manipulation plan by Trip to get Louanne. But for what reason? Let's keep watching and find out. Back to the hills, we see the boys at their usual hangout as they talk about whose house they'll be TPing when Peggy and Louanne return from the interview.
Mr. Trip Larson is the most wonderful man in the whole world.
Well, he gave you a job, huh? What position?
Oh, I'm his girlfriend.
And by slow, I mean he's already having her change her appearance to his liking, like having her hair in braids, for instance.
Well, I knew this guy was no good, but braiding your hair? From the back, your head looks like a horse's.
Well, Trip likes my hair in braids.
Even Peggy isn't a fan of Trip, commenting about his age and how he treats her like a child, and Louanne tells her not to worry. But not only is Trip telling her about how to look, but also telling her how to eat and how that's the French way.
I'm going to eat my salad after my steak. Trip says that's the French way.
Salad after steak? I hate to say this twice in one meal, but horses.
Hank and Peggy pay Trip a visit, and we get to see his admittedly impressive tennis skills. And right off the bat, Trip is able to smooth talk Hank with one of Hank's Achilles heels, sports.
How'd you like to watch some football bloopers while I finish my set? You know, they send us advertisers some stuff that, well, you'll see it nowhere else.
I could take a look.
Now I know what some of you fellow Hooties who may not have seen this episode beforehand are thinking, which you really should see the episode before you watch the review, mind you, to fully enjoy it before you hear my hooted opinion on it. Hoots! Trip is merely offering Hank to watch some of the football bloopers while he finishes his tennis set. How bad could that be? Well, when it comes to manipulation tactics like what Trip is doing right now, it's easier to make it seem like what he's doing isn't manipulation when you're convinced one of the party that you're not manipulating, and seeing as how he got Hank with the clever football bloopers ploy, he even sweetens the deal by mentioning that some of the bloopers are exclusive.
Hey, do you have the snowman who caught fire at the Vikings game?
I've got 3 different snowmen catching fire.
And like the poor snowman, Peggy's chances of discussing Louanne are quickly going up in smoke as he sees he can easily distract Hank with sports bloopers and can dodge the topic of Louanne as long as he needs to, so he can think of an answer that satisfies Hank regardless if it's a good answer for Peggy, which is a smart move, to get the one that's mostly considered the voice of reason to believe that you're not manipulative, or even sinister motives for Louanne, and make Peggy the one that's overreacting, as we'll see later on. Peggy presses the issue about Louanne, but Trip ducks the topic by introducing him to the J5, and boy, that is one big gal. But it's just a distraction for Hank, so he doesn't ask why he's so interested in Louanne, his niece. Trip even gets him to take a ride in his hot air balloon by hitting him with the tactical "it runs on propane." But unfortunately for Trip, Peggy isn't one to be fooled by future delicious porky or propane distractions.
Peggy, I feel like Neil Armstrong up here. I can see everybody's gutters, and they look great.
He sends a very clear message to Peggy, but he doesn't realize who he's dealing with. Peggy Hill. But alas, Trip has gotten to Hank with his sports bloopers, plump porks, and propane balloon rides. Hank even thinking that Peggy was the one that caused the balloon to shake and almost knock him off.
Try to see it from his point of view. He was trying to control the balloon and you kept talking to him.
I was right there. He was pulling and yanking that cord and trying to jerk you out of there with every last fiber of his being and then some.
Louanne tries to correct Peggy with one of Trip's nuggets of wisdom. Or should I say, mini hot dogs of wisdom? Sorry. But Peggy doesn't take the advice as well as Louanne hoped.
How dare you? You do not come into my house and correct my grammar unless your name happens to be Strunk or what, is it?
I'm just trying to help you improve yourself, Aunt Peggy.
First Louanne, now Hank falls for the Trip Larson's lies. What else could happen to poor Peggy?
This'll cook up nice, Hank. How much did it cost you, huh? $100?
Hank, the man is crazy. That headless pig is a threat.
Wow, just wow. That is very clever and a sinister move. It serves as both a gift to Hank and the boys, especially Bill being a caveman who knows his way around a nice barbecue and already thinking of ways he could cook the pig. But for Peggy, it serves as a mafia-like threat. It says, "Mess with me, Peg, and it'll be you in the smoker. Slowly roast until your meat's so tender it could fall off the bones on a nice family cookout," or something like that. Hank tries to defend the double threat and tasty treat, and Peggy shows Hank how she feels.
No, you're bruising the rinds.
Seeing as that no one believes Peggy, she makes one last attempt to reach out to Louanne in a very calm and reasonable...
Louanne, I have decided that your boyfriend is crazy. Now, do you want to break up with him, or should I?
Peggy, I get it. Trip Larson is crazy and definitely is bad for Louanne. But you can't just decide that Trip is crazy and make her break up with her. You have to make it seem like it was her idea and let her realize that he's crazy on her own so she doesn't do anything stupid like run to Trip Larson.
You wiped your eyes on my tie. That's okay. It's an amazing fabric.
You can tell Trip was bothered by that, but played it off like it was no big deal. You can see that a lot with how he talks, trying to soften his words to sound encouraging to Louanne, or anyone he talks to get them to feel comfortable around him so he doesn't seem like a threat. But the more the episode goes on, we'll see cracks in his fake demeanor begin to form. Let's just hope she leaves now and goes home before...
Louanne, you are home. I took the liberty of having your belongings meat trucked out here. Forgive me if they smell delicious.
We see a line of pigs walking in a line to the pork plant, a metaphorical representation of Louanne walking blindly deeper into Trip's trap. Sorry, that was an unintentional joke I made there. Or, at least that's how I see it as. Let me know in the comments if you think that shot was a metaphor for poor Louanne. Trip shows Louanne to her room.
So beautiful.
Which is weird, being that they're supposed to be dating, right? Why would he have her in a room different to his? Louanne also finds that her clothes are gone.
Well, that's because I had them shredded. Plant mulch. Gardening tip, synthetics make wonderful ground cover.
Oh! They're all the same.
Nothing is exactly the same.
And it's here that Louanne is seeing that Trip isn't as mentally put together as she thought he was.
Everything has a small flaw. Or imperfection. Drives me mad.
If you think that's bad, just wait until the first night at the Larson estate. Louanne is awakened in the middle of the night to the sound of thumping as she finds the source of the sounds.
Back off, girl. Don't be messing with Papa's lady now, you hear?
Okay, so aside from the J5 being locked up in a room, there's something really unsettling about the door being covered up by the curtains, like it was hiding it as if one of the windows. But what was the pig doing in a room? he makes up some excuse as to why the pig is in the room without really explaining why, by talking about the floors being properly made for the pig's hoofs. But then again, he also says that they aren't needed before sending Louanne to her room, saying Blanca will bring her a nice warm glass of milk.
Finish it all.
Well, ain't that a calm and reasonable way of telling someone to drink some warm milk? I'm sure there's no reason why he told her to drink it all like that, right?
Oh good, you're up.
My head is bleeding!
Oh, that might be why. Louanne is understandably upset why he changed the color of her hair seemingly out of nowhere, and Trip gives a very sane and natural response.
You don't like it? Okay. Well, we can always shave it off and wait for it to regrow.
No!
Good.
Now, I don't know about you, but I think she had flashbacks of when she was bald after the events of Propane Boom, when her hair went up in flames, like the Megalomart. Or it might just been because Louanne didn't want her head shaved. Louanne lies to Blanca, saying she's going to practice her harp, which I think Blanca don't really give a hoot. And she grabs the keys on the cart and unlocks a mysterious door where a Life magazine is encased in a glass cube.
It's me.
Except for the teeth. But that can be taken care of.
Now, for those who still think that Trip Larson is just a misunderstood, insane man who just wants the best for Louanne, well...
This is the Larson Pork Products girl my grandfather created 50 years ago. Her picture graced the walls of my nursery. Mother never really paid me much attention, but she was always there. I've spent so many years trying to find you. Look at her, the Larson Pork Products woman. I never thought I'd meet someone as perfect as the woman in that picture. And then I saw you at the Learning Annex.
I'm just so alone here.
You know, you'd think since they're dating that she shouldn't feel so alone, but how does Trip fix that?
With a big Halloween party to show the world just how happy we are.
Oh, a party! How neat! I wonder what Louanne will dress up as.
Can I dress up as a pirate?
A woman as a pirate? Well, that's just crazy. I know just what you wear. This.
Oh, wow. That's so creative. You can hardly tell if it's her. Larson invites Hank and Peggy to a big Halloween gala at the Dance Theater of Ireland. Peggy agreeing to go due to her silver slipper donor status and not receiving her umbrella. Weird flex, Peggy, but sure, whatever gets you there. We see Hank and Peggy dressed up as an adorable 50s couple costume pair as they see Louanne in her outfit as she's called to Trip, and Louanne introduces them to Blanca, her best friend. Wow. That's the face of someone who's just checked out. Trip appears in a Phantom of the Opera-like pig costume, and it seems like he wants her to marry him when he reveals who he really wants her to marry.
Will you do me the great honor of marrying him?
Him?
Life is a series of compromises.
But wait, it gets better.
But wait! There's more!
You know why he's dressed up like a pig? And why he wants Louanne to marry Javier instead of him?
We can be the family in the picture. You, him, and me.
What?
Louanne, wait!
Oh, so that's why he never treated her like his girlfriend. He just was trying to make her look like the Larson Pork Product girl and have her marry some random stranger so they can live happily ever after with him as their happy, crazy little pet pig. What? Finally seeing that Trip is crazy, Louanne runs for it, right past Peggy. When Trip runs after to find her, Peggy follows right behind. I don't know why, but this part reminds me of Phantom of the Opera for some reason. Not sure why. Louanne gets on the conveyor belt as Larson tries to make them both Larson Pork Products together as she escapes just in time.
Pull the left lever. Now!
Let me do it!
Mama, Papa, I'm coming home.
And now we get to the part of the episode that was the reason for it being banned for 2 years. And even though it doesn't show anything, viewer discretion is advised. It seems that the shock to the head caused this psychosis he had to fade, as he seems to have a clear mind, just as a spike finishes him off.
At least Trip seemed happy. And now he's in a better place.
Honey, Trip had a mental breakdown and is now a sausage. That's not a better place.
Peggy is proud that Louanne handled the situation on her own, like an adult, and the special ends. Now, I'm sure everyone who watched this special knows about the urban legend that the last few frames of the episode could barely see Trip's mangled corpse dangling off a meat hook as he slowly slides into frame with the other hooks, but that's just creepypasta fodder. Now, when it comes to this episode, I know Peggy had Louanne's best interest at heart, and she means well, but she did what Trip Larson did, never asked Louanne what she wanted and just assumed for her. Peggy thought that she knew what was best for Louanne without asking her first, and for Peggy to say Louanne handled it on her own, where she was right, she never apologized for causing all this to happen to begin with. Honestly, Louanne would have been better off just going to the Annex when Buck Strickland was speaking. I mean, the worst that would have happened would have been Buck hitting on her and her just saying no and going on with her life. But no, Peggy just had to overstep her boundaries as Louanne's aunt and make decisions for her, and it led to Louanne almost becoming a living Larson Pork Products girl, or being a pork product herself. But I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. As always, you fellow Hooties, feedback means a lot, and I can't thank you enough for all of your support. Thank you for watching the final Hootaween review. I hope you enjoyed it, as well as your Halloween. Thanks again for watching, and until then, I'll see you for Hootsgiving, where I'm gonna try and find a new place for my Thanksgiving episodes, and I give my hoot in the dark. This has been Hootaween. Until next time on Hootaween! Thanks for watching, my fellow Hoots and Ghouls. Don't forget to like, share with your fans, comment, subscribe, and join the Parliament of Hoots today, and follow me on my other social media websites. Check out the 2 videos that'll pop up and it'll take you to more of my content. And until next time, I'll see you when you visit the graveyard, and we'll join for another episode of Hootaween!